There is not much to say about the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 other than it was made after the success of the first Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, it was developed by both American and Japanese developers at Sega Technical Institute, after some conflicts during the development of the first game. It is hard to tell if this marked a big shift in the development of the Sonic games at the time, because much of Sonic 2 is similar to before, but there were some interesting changes, which probably ensured the series would last for a long time yet. Let's look back at the game that was released on Tuesday, November 24th, 1992, marketed under the title Sonic Tuesday, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The story's not really that different from before. Robotnik, and that's the name he shall be generally known as in this review, is up to no good again by looking for the Chaos Emeralds and turning animals into robotic batniks. But he is a little more ambitious, as he is constructing a massive structure known as the Death Egg. And only through the animals and emeralds can he do that. Not unless Sonic the Hedgehog can stop him. But Sonic is not alone this time. New to this game is two-tailed fox miles per hour. Get it? Miles per hour? Better known as Tails. Tails is a longtime friend and admirer of the Blue Hedgehog. Tails doesn't have to join Sonic, but regardless, Robotnik's slightly increased ambition applies to the number of levels/zones and emeralds that are featured. There are 7 emeralds instead of 6, and there are 10 zones plus a final stage. All of them are divided into 2 acts, save for a few that only have either 1 or 3. The last act of each zone features a boss fight. Each zone has unique features, which above all send Sonic and Tails moving, jumping, bouncing and zigzagging in every possible direction at high speeds. It is a simple formula that worked in the first game and it works here, only it has minor changes. The graphics are similar to before, but somehow look nicer. It is above all dated, but the zones look a little more detailed in the foregrounds and backgrounds. Sonic's sprite is pretty much the same, which shows that his artistic look was spot on from the beginning. Tails also is animated nicely too, though he's ultimately a cosmetic change for Sonic with the same controls and abilities. The music is funky and catchy like before. The variety of tunes, considering the increased number of zones, is nice, complete with a sense of creative freedom and better technology. The looping of the tunes can still get potentially tiresome. Throw in good sound effects and you have production values that combine ultimately to demonstrate the power of the 16-bit hardware. Anyone who's played the first Sonic game will feel right at home with the gameplay. Enemies and traps are there to hinder Sonic's progress in stopping Robotnik. The rings Sonic collects will prevent him from dying, only you lose the rings when getting hurt without defending yourself. As long as you have at least 1 ring, you are alright. However, not even the shield and invincibility power-ups will save him from drowning, being squashed or falling into a bottomless pit. Oh, and the time limit reaching 10 minutes, which I forgot to say in my previous review. Navigating platforms and enemies is made simple again with understandable controls. Just a directional button and 1 button, with the A, B and C buttons performing the same action, is all you need. Sonic and even Tails get a new ability, however, called the Spin Dash. When holding down while stationary and then the A, B or C button, Sonic and or Tails will spin, resulting in a speed boost. This makes it easier to go on upward slopes and other terrain, something which probably should have been in the first game. It adds to the sense of speed in the game, which is great. But is it really? The level design is certainly accommodating for the increased speed and features less of an emphasis on waiting for moving platforms. There are multiple pathways in sequence as per usual, almost to the point of no single run through a zone being the same. Each zone has unique features ranging from the pinball-style slot machines of Casino Night Zone to the boost pads of Chemical Plant Zone. Speaking of Chemical Plant Zone, there are annoying aspects in the early sections of the game, such as bodies of water that, while not as overwhelming as Labyrinth Zone, threaten to drown you, and there's an infamous pit of spikes in Misty Cave Zone. But as a whole, the level design and progression is generally good and can be quite fun. Except for the final sections of the game. Metropolis Zone features some of the worst enemy placement in the game, with the mantis-like slicers waiting to ambush you. Then the zones after that require quite a bit of trial and error with confusing jumps. And the final boss, which I'm not going to spoil here for those who haven't played it, while not exactly hard, seems to have a strange hitbox. Doesn't help that you have no rings. Sure, that was the case in the previous game, but still. The final sections in that regard can potentially lead to an easy game over. The Robotnik boss fights feel a bit tougher than before, but are still generally easy. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, once again, feels more like an arcade game, where numerous attempts may be required to get to the end. But frustrations aside, it can be quite fun doing so due to a good balance between platforming and super speed. Those of you who thought there wasn't much point to the Chaos Emeralds in the previous game will be pleased to know that collecting all the emeralds actually has a purpose. Shame that getting emeralds can be potentially infuriating. First of all, you have to have 50 rings and then go through a star portal when activating the checkpoint. Good luck slowing down to find those checkpoints while keeping those 50 rings at the same time. And the special stages are pseudo 3D half-pipe levels, where you have to collect a specific number of total rings at each checkpoint to obtain the emerald at the end. The attempt at making these stages look 3D is commendable, but gosh darn it, the amount of practice and memorization required to collect the rings required while missing as little of the rings as possible and avoiding bombs, how does that work? The first stage at least is very easy, but the later ones? Don't get me started. What can also make it hard is if you actually have Tails with you. Tails delays in mimicking Sonic's moves, so expect him to crash into bombs and lose rings. Also, in the main stages, Tails has trouble keeping up with Sonic, poor guy. However, a second person can actually take control of Tails and cannot die, even when controlled by the AI. So, if someone in the room is eager to play a Sonic game with you and is not necessarily good at games, let them play as Tails. It's a bit like the 2-player mode of the Mario Galaxy games. Or they can play as Tails in the other 2-player mode, which sees Sonic and Tails competing for the best score based on certain criteria, or by getting the most rings in a special stage. There are only a few stages, and the screens squash the graphics down, so the 2-player mode is probably only good for a few minutes of playtime. Overall, Sonic 2 improves on a number of aspects from the original, while keeping much of the production values and sense of speed. There are quite a few frustrating moments or sections, which unfortunately feels similar to the previous game, and the extra content could have been improved. But if the game's legacy and sales numbers are any indication, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 proved that the blue hedgehog, as well as his two-tailed fox friend, was here to stay. The multiple releases of this game, complete with some changes, means there's no excuse for missing out on discovering or rediscovering spin dashing through this fun, fast-paced Sonic game. Catch you all later this weekend for Sonic 3 and Knuckles for review of that one, although I might review the Sonic the Hedgehog film before that. Stay tuned.